I guess.
And this is how many months in the making? Like 6 months in making.
Yeah. Do you think I think it's amplifying it. Maybe not. We'll see. Okay. Yeah. We've sat. First of all, it's weird because first of all, the last time I filmed with Garett was more than a year ago. Secondly, I've never filmed in this kind of a setup, so I don't know if I'm supposed to look at you or the camera.
You look at both.
Because this is being posted to YouTube, but it's also just going to be uploaded as a podcast episode, audio only. So I don't know. Yeah, and this is Garett's debut into the... I don't know, I guess it's been a...
Debut into what, though? Into the podcast?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because you've done one on your own.
Yeah,
so.
I've done one on my own, and you're also my first, guest. But then last night, Garett and I were talking about co-hosting this podcast. Because right now, I'm the host of it, and Garett is a guest, but we might make it so Garett is an equal host like me. Right?
Yeah, we'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
We're open to...
Flowing
I'm open to
with it?
hosting.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it'll be equal, but we'll see. See what happens.
I know, but I was just thinking because Garett has interesting perspectives about the things that I speak a lot about, but it gives our two thought patterns together create a more wholesome perspective of the topics that we discuss.
Yes.
So that's why I thought that it'd be really cool if we had it as a co-host thing where most of the episodes are both Garett and I. And then maybe sometimes I do solo episodes. Maybe sometimes Garett does solo episodes, but it just depends. But yeah, I mean, I just find it really exciting to have a project that's with you.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to do solo episode. I can't just talk like you can into the void and come out with something because I don't know what to talk about. I don't rant.
Yeah.
Right. I'm more of I respond.
That's true.
I respond rather than rant. So I don't know. Maybe I will eventually come up with something on my own and just talk, but
I guess there's really no
also
pressure.
the stuff I do is not conducive to well, it depends. Some of it.
What
the
do you
application
do?
Stuff I do is not.
For those of you that don't know, by the way, this is Garett.
My main focus is machine learning. So we both went to Queen's University for software design, and Reej kind of split off as soon as she finished her degree into, she did some web dev stuff, but anyways, I went into machine learning because that was kind of what I found an interest in machine learning in, I guess, third year of university, and then it kind of grew. So anyways, it's my main focus now. Mm-hmm. I like it. But so there's in machine learning, you can talk about the more, you can talk about it conceptually as in the implications of the technology, or you can talk about it in terms of the actual implementation of how it works, which
mm-hmm.
is two very different things. And some people would only be interested in the conceptual and others the actual implementation. The people that are actually interested in implementing it are the details are a lot different from the conceptual.
Yeah, but are you talking about this in regards to thinking about solo episodes and what people would want to listen to? But then
so
again,
basically I would not be talking about the implementation details of any of these algorithms, but I would discuss maybe how these types of algorithms relate to other things outside of machine learning.
Yeah.
Specifically.
I think that it doesn't.
It's more the difference between AI and machine learning. Machine learning is a subset of AI.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm going to ask you about that in a second because I feel like a lot of people don't know what that means. Machine learning is a subset of AI. But first of all, I think that you don't have to think about it as in terms of what are people going to like.
Yes.
As long as you're talking about something that you're excited about, you don't even have to be boxed into just machine learning. You talk about whatever you want.
Yeah,
I'm just saying the
course.
podcast, like potential solo episodes are literally like just a space for you to express yourself.
Yeah, but what
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
and you don't have to do them.
But what I'm saying is like my brain is so focused on actually implementing machine learning stuff right now that I don't know what would come out. Like I can just try, and that's probably what I'll end up doing if I ever do it. So
Yeah.
I'll just try and see what happens. If nothing comes out because I'm thinking about a specific problem I'm having with my code.
Yeah, but
then I'll just leave it.
as you move into like more of the educator space, because that's like kind of where you're heading.
Yes.
Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna like ask you questions and introduce you more, because we're starting to speak as if everyone already knows what you're talking about, and no one really knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So first of all, what are you doing now? And so I've spoken a lot about my 2020, and I made like the last podcast episode that I posted under this podcast was pretty much just me talking about all the changes that I've been experiencing last year. So how was 2020 for you? And what were like the biggest things that happened to you, and like what were the lessons that you learned? Just go at it one at a time, whatever comes out. There's no pressure.
So basically, at the start of 2020, I was still working at a startup called Migrations ML, and they're still around. They do credit risk analytics for corporate bonds using machine learning. For those of you that don't know what credit risk analytics for corporate bonds means, it's basically like using machines to using algorithms to try and evaluate how risky it is to invest in an asset, and the asset in this case is corporate bonds. So I had been doing that for a year. My total time at that company was like a year and a quarter. And then I decided I wanted to kind of move on and do my own thing. So I quit that job in end of July 2020. I took August. In August, I was mostly working on, like, basically I've always been working on personal projects, but the one that I had been working on when I quit Migrations was I believe the Reddit bot was the first thing I did. Mm-hmm. And that basically what it was a project where I have an algorithm running every night. It scrapes Reddit, and then it basically sorts it by the best posts for a given subreddit, and then it automatically creates a video for that post, and it uses David Attenborough's voice, a machine learning algorithm that learned what David Attenborough's voice sounds like, to reproduce. It reproduces his voice reading the text from the Reddit post. Mm-hmm. And then it just shows like the text on screen and goes through a bunch of different submissions. And then that was picked up by Vice. They did an article on that, so that was kind of nice. And that was like the first time I had gotten any sort of recognition outside of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always been interested in doing like little projects, and that was the first one with any sort of success. And then now, like, I had made some videos before that. I won't explain them all, but now I'm trying to focus on kind of teaching machine learning, because I like the education side of it. And I'm like a hands-on learner, so I need to learn by doing. So teaching it is just like a way to reuse the things I already want to learn for myself.
Yeah.
So like I'm learning these concepts, but then I'm rebroadcasting them out to the world to make it easier for other people to learn them too.
Yeah. And I think even doing something like this where you're speaking is going to help you a lot with just moving from that space of, like, because the last couple of months you've just been, like, Garett's just been doing stuff on his own, like working on his project. So he's just been he was doing a lot of, he had a lot of interaction with other people when he was working for that full-time position. But then when he started and moved into his own thing, he was like, most of his days are silent, pretty much. He's just working on his thing. Yeah. So doing something like this is going to open up that area of your brain, I guess. That's not what, it's going to open up that area of your,
Yeah, I had a lot of practice when I was working at that job in like doing presentations and talking to people and explaining concepts to people. Mm-hmm. So like I enjoyed the like teaching kind of how it works part a lot. So that the natural progression is kind of getting back into that.
Yeah. And okay, I'm already having a hard time remembering. So this is also the first time that I've ever done a podcast. I've been on a podcast where I was a guest in like the interviewee side of things, but this is the first time where I feel like I'm more so interviewing you. So it's like kind of uncomfortable for me right now because I'm like
trying to come up with questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with questions, but also I have to listen. So I'll, like when I'm no. I mean like I have to remember my question, but then I also have to listen and then tweak my question as I'm listening. So it's kind of it's like a new way of my brain, like that my brain's working that I'm not really used to. So yes, I can't. I'm just saying that because I feel like insecure about it right now, but that's okay. This is our first podcast. Yeah, I don't remember what I was gonna say next.
So I was talking about speaking, public speaking, basically. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So what is? So you said you were going into the education space. So what are your plan? Like, what are you? How is that gonna look?
Yeah. So I want to. Basically, I want to teach people about machine learning because I find it interesting. Mm-hmm. And I want to take some of the concepts that I've found in learning and simplify them to my audience. Because a lot of machine learning, especially now, first of all, it's extremely rapidly growing field. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of stuff to kind of get in your head when you're first trying to get going. And as it keeps progressing, it gets more and more overwhelming because there's so much stuff coming out basically every day. So a lot of my time now is just spent like searching around, and I'm using like the latest stuff. So there's always like bugs that I'll find in the code that other people have written, or like there's just tons of little issues that come up, and I can kind of just condense all of that down into like something that people can actually use. And kind of my main goal is teaching people how to make something kind of like start to finish. One of the problems with machine learning education right now is it's very fragmented. Mm-hmm. It's like here's a thing, here's another thing, here's another thing, but there's no one telling people, or there's few people telling other people how to put them all together and how everything fits in with everything else. Yeah. So that's my main goal. Okay, so it cut off, but we're back. I was just saying that I was relating to what he was saying about when you learn software development or things or machine learning or whatever, you learn things in fragments. Like you're like, okay, I know this part. Like I relate to that a lot because when I was learning web development, I knew about all the distinct parts that are required to create a website, but I had never created a full website from like start to finish, and there weren't many materials that I found that were helpful for that, except for this one online course that I found from an independent creator who literally like walked me through a whole website from start to finish. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, now I'm confident about making websites. Whereas before I knew HTML, like I knew JavaScript, I knew React, like all these little things
well, I didn't react that well, but you know, like I knew the parts, but I didn't know how they all connected. So that will definitely be beneficial to people who are starting off, who have like this inkling of like a desire to explore machine learning, but they're like, whoa, they're super overwhelming. They don't know where to start.
Did it cut off before the part I talked about math?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So one of the misconceptions too about machine learning is that it requires like an extensive math background. And depending on what you're going into, it could, but for most use cases that are already proven, you don't need to know math extensively. Like you don't need to be super good at calculus. In fact, you don't need to know calculus at all to get started in machine learning. If you want to make like advancements and like really push machine learning forward, then yeah, it's a really good idea to learn these concepts because it will help you develop your algorithms. But there's tools that people have already created that let you use existing kind of structures to solve problems. So the structures I'm talking about are different proven algorithms for specific problem domains. And the tools will do the math for you, basically. So there's a lot of applications of machine learning that could just reuse existing machine learning tools for a new problem. And kind of that's the direction I'm trying to teach. I'm not trying to teach like building machine learning algorithms. I'm trying to teach using machine learning algorithms.
Yeah, so like making projects that solve problems using machine learning as a technology and as a tool.
Yeah. And you can still make your own network that no one's ever made before, but you don't have to do the math behind it.
Yeah. And that actually applies to computer science in general, because I remember when I was applying to the computer science bachelor's program, that was like a big fear of mine. I was like, oh, like I don't really want to do a lot of math. I mean, it's not like I was necessarily bad at it, but I just didn't feel like I was strong enough to do it. And I was worried that that was going to hinder my progress as a computer scientist, but it literally did not affect anything. And I actually get some messages every now and then in comments of people being like, how much math do I need to know? And I'm like, literally none.
And
Basic.
The other thing too is like a lot of the math that you use in computer science, it's still considered math, but it's different from like the math you learn in high school.
It's like,
so it's like more intuitive to learn because you're actually seeing the application of it. One of the problems with math in high school is they teach math as a discipline rather than as an application to something else. And that's kind of why I liked physics. And I did better in physics than I did in math, even though the math I was doing in physics was harder in university. So that was interesting.
I want to ask you to explain the relationship between artificial intelligence and machine learning.
So artificial intelligence is like this, imagine as like an intersecting bubble, where this big bubble is AI, artificial intelligence, and then inside it there's another bubble that's smaller, and that's machine learning. So, and the reason behind this is because there's multiple ways you could conceive of making something artificially intelligent, not necessarily involving machine learning algorithms. So there could be other ways of approaching generating an artificial intelligence that's not machine learning.
So
like you could almost consider like genetic modification of something as an artificial intelligence because you've modified it, and now it's artificial because it's human made.
It's not, and
it's intelligent still, so it's artificially intelligent.
I see. So what's machine learning defined as then? So at least to you, like what do you define machine learning
as? Is the application of algorithms to learn patterns in data, basically. So you're taking examples of something in the world, encoding that into a machine, and then it learns, given this example, what should I say, basically. So that could be, give an image of a cat, the algorithm says it's a cat, or it can be, give a sequence of like the first paragraph of a book, and it'll continue the book. It can be like, the new one that just came out was how to fold proteins and protein folding, which helps in drug creation and stuff like that. So it's all about like how does the system react? Show it examples of how, given this input, you get an output. Yeah. And then it uses those examples to extrapolate into new examples.
Okay. I don't have a next question. Go ahead.
How do you see machine learning in relation to the stuff that you think about on a daily basis?
So I think about a lot of stuff on a daily basis. You narrow it down a little bit. Okay, yeah. So actually I was thinking about that as you were speaking. I was just thinking about, like, I feel like the perspective of someone who is spiritual, or like spiritually minded, or like thinks about spirituality, it's very much like it's about getting back to your roots as a human being. Like, so it's like a lot of it ties in with indigenous cultures, because it's like how are humans like evolved to survive? Like, what are the strengths that we have innately within us that enable us to thrive in our environments, in our natural environments? And I feel like machine learning and the whole artificial intelligence thing is really interesting, because at least from what I observe in the spiritual community, a lot of people in the spiritual community villainize artificial intelligence. Really? Because I mean, not like directly, because I feel like a lot of them aren't even exposed. They just hear AI and they think automatically.
They think it's bad. That's the general.
They think automatically to what it has been shown as in
Terminator.
Media. Yeah, in like the media, right? It's like, oh, AI is bad because it
can get out of control and all these other things.
Yeah, and it's like it doesn't have that human quality, like that natural Mother Nature put it in, you know what I mean? So it's like, because Mother Nature herself did not directly create anything that comes out of AI, then therefore it is detrimental to humanity. And I think that's a belief a lot of people hold, and so a lot of people have fear about the future of AI and a lot of resistance to it, but mostly because they don't know what the positive benefits of such technologies are as well. And I feel like it's so easy to make a headline that's like, Elon Musk says, remember what was that headline that was literally around for so long? It was about how Elon Musk made a statement about how scary AI is, or something like that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, he's made statement. It's more a tale of caution. It's just saying, like, we're not explicitly programming these things to do anything. They're learning by example, right? Yeah. So if you give the AI bad examples, it's gonna do bad things. Yeah, and this ties into the concerns that are coming up about like image classification algorithms. Like, it can be used in good ways and bad ways, right?
Explain what image classification algorithm is to
someone who doesn't know. So it's like what I said before, where you can have like a picture of a cat, and then the algorithm will learn what a cat looks like.
Yes.
And then be able to say, like, give it a new picture of another cat. Yes, this is also a cat. So things like that are super useful in medicine, because like you can give it a picture of an X-ray or an MRI or something, and it can identify cancers and a whole bunch of different stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it can also be used for bad in that, for example, in some countries, it's being used as a tool to spy on the population and basically give an identifier to everyone saying, yeah, that's Bob, right? We don't like Bob, so we're going to track him and we're going to set up cameras all over the country.
Yes.
We're going to know where Bob is all the time.
Yeah. And this ties into just it's a tool. It's not inherently good or bad.
Yeah.
It just is.
It's like a knife isn't bad.
Yes.
Right.
But
it's
it
whoever's
has
holding the knife
power.
that can.
It holds power.
Yes.
And that's, so I guess it all really does boil down to people are scared of the power that artificial intelligence
Can bring.
possess. It.
Yeah.
Like, can the people who know what it is and can use, the people who can, what? The people who know how to use artificial intelligence can wield a lot of power.
Yeah.
Basically. And that's what people are scared of. And
Yeah.
so it just goes back down to do we trust other people?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we trust humanity? I think that also it's people are scared that AI is going to go insane because I feel like that their perception of that is very reflective of how they perceive humanity. And so if they believe that most of humanity is inherently bad, then they're worried that the algorithms are going to pick up on that and start acting in the same way. Mm-hmm. But in reality, not all humanity isn't inherently bad. It also isn't inherently good. It's up to each individual person to figure out what path they'd rather walk on.
Yeah, and the algorithm is gonna pick up whatever biases the creator has, right?
Yes, exactly.
So if you're trying to use it as a lie detector or something like that to analyze micro expressions in your face, if in your population you're training it on, there's some sort of systematic bias where because of historical events, let's say colored people are more likely to show that in that context or whatever, just because that's the people that they've forced into that situation.
Yes, exactly.
Then it will show that bias going forward.
Yes.
So you have to take corrective action if you're trying to remove biases from these algorithms.
Yeah. But then again, to correct these biases, the people who are creating these algorithms and training them are first going to have to correct it within themselves. Otherwise, they won't even recognize that the biases exist.
Yes.
So it's I feel like it's very the future of artificial intelligence is very intertwined with how just society progresses from here on out. Okay, the camera cut out again. But we're just going to keep going because we're not quitters, even though it's really frustrating. But I think from where I left off, I was just speaking about... Actually, it's probably good that it cut off because I was having a really hard time expressing... Una? No, okay. So what I was saying was something about how... Oh yeah, taking corrective action on machine learning algorithms may not be it might just be a band-aid solution instead of actually solving the problems. Because I was giving the example of, for example, brown people, so South Asian people is my ancestry. There's a lot of toxic traits that are obviously not in every single brown person, but culturally there are some perceptions about reality that are harmful, that a lot of people in those cultures kind of hold on to, and therefore those beliefs inform their actions. So, but these toxic traits are not necessarily because of their skin color, it's just because there's been certain key events that have happened in the history of this group of people that have caused them, traumatic things that have caused them to start seeing reality in a specific way and start acting in a specific way. So, for example, I don't even have a proper example that will link in with machine learning, but for example, machine learning algorithm would pick up on these traits, and then it would classify South Asian people to have these traits, right? And that might mean that it is now acting discriminatorily to brown people. And then people will be outraged at that, etc. But then how do you actually correct that? Because you can't just go in and be like, oh no, brown people, these traits don't exist, because they do.
Yeah, well, the corrective action that has been recommended and is like the first step is like not including traits in the inputs to these algorithms that can be used to discriminate and are clearly not relevant to the problem. So in the case of, there was a case study I read one time, I'm probably going to butcher this, but it was something about taking in, it was in the jail system, and it was something about taking in like the reports of inmates and how they're acting, written correction officers, whoever's watching, to see if they qualify to get out early, basically, right? Yeah. And
so they were using a machine learning model to determine.
Yeah, I don't know if they were using if this is actually in use or not.
Yeah, but it was.
Probably it's in use somewhere. But anyways, it doesn't matter. The point was that they had used color of skin as one of the attributes that was feeding this model.
Okay.
Which that shouldn't be one of your attributes if you're trying to be fair in any way, right?
Yes.
Because it'll pick up on systematic biases that are in place because of the culture.
Yes.
So you need to get rid of things that are clearly not relevant to the issue.
Yes.
In order to actually more objectively. Yeah. You're never going to be fully objective, but more objectively use machine learning.
I'm so happy because you explained that in such a better way. Like, you basically just repeated what I was trying to express, but in a better, more coherent way. So thanks. But again, that goes back to like the people who are developing machine learning algorithms. They must be able to recognize that skin color is not a relevant attribute. Yeah. If you are someone who is racist, who literally believes that Black people should have are gonna be different than white people in that group, if you genuinely think that, then you're not going to be able to recognize that skin color is irrelevant. But if you're not racist, you will. So it again goes to back, the power is actually in the humans that are creating these systems, and the machines are literally just doing, going off of what we're...
Yeah. So the one of the concerns of I think for the people that don't really understand the current state of machine learning, which is very much like input output most of the time, there aren't really systems that are just created and then put out and then they do whatever they want. Yeah. For the most part, there are some kind of moving into that direction, but most of the applications right now are just the human curates what the machine sees and therefore influences what biases it holds.
Okay, and is machine learning the only field of artificial so when it comes to movies like Terminator or what's that other one? Is it Space Odyssey with that red?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different movies.
What kind of AI is that? Are those
so they're talking about artificial general intelligence.
Okay.
When it becomes so complex and autonomous that it's basically its own thing at that point.
Okay. And
it's living. It's when I run my algorithms, I start it and I shut it off. Now theoretically you could put a stop button on one of these things and turn it on and off.
Yes.
But kind of the point with those is that it's this living system that just keeps going and it's always learning. Whereas when I'm making stuff right now, I'm taking a bunch of data, saying, here, learn from that, and then I'm kind of just using it for a while until maybe I get some more data and then I add it to the chunk. But with
Yes.
those systems, it's called reinforcement learning. So you're constantly updating the system.
Okay, and who are the people that are working on those kinds of systems right now?
There's tons of people
No, I
across
know,
the
but
world
like,
working on it.
but do you have faith in the people that are working on that kind of stuff?
Well, there's people in all different countries, so no, I don't have faith in all the people working on that kind of stuff.
I know the
It's
questions-
impossible to. It's like, do I have faith in
I-
everyone that holds a gun? No, I don't.
I
Have
think
faith
I
in everyone
mean
that
I
holds a
think
gun.
I mean, are there any big projects of that kind of artificial intelligence that comes into mind? Like who are the kind of leaders in that field right now? Like, is it Google? Like, who?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the current state of all machine learning. Like I said, it's a huge
But is that
field.
machine learning?
Yeah, Google uses machine
But
learning
is
extensively.
reinforcement learning machine learning?
Yes.
Okay, so general intelligence, artificial general intelligence is still a
That has not been created yet.
yes, but
Yeah.
that like reality will stem from machine learning.
Well, it's maybe. We don't know. It hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
But if I were to make a bet on what it would come from, it would be from a system that's continuously integrating the data, not just taking last year's data and using that. It would be something that's using every like time it sees something new, it learns. If you think of how we work, right? As soon as we come out, we're getting all these senses and we're learning how to do things, and it never stops. It's like a continuous process. So anything that, in my mind, anything that is AGI,
What's that?
well, artificial generally intelligent,
Okay.
will, if it's coming from machine learning, my bet is on reinforcement learning.
Okay. And going back to how it is important that the people who are developing these things, how it's important for them to be conscious of what they're creating and what the potential long-term effects of it can be. Does that tie into your reason for wanting to be involved in educating on
Preventing it from becoming bad?
like, do you think that you can have an effect on a positive effect because by you okay, so ultimately your goal is like, you want, obviously, if you want to go into machine learning education, you want to be successful in that, so therefore you would want to be like a leader in the machine learning education field. And then from that position, you could be someone that is like affecting
Yeah. So I think in general,
like the philosophy of the people that you are teaching.
Yeah. Yes. I think that if I'm to teach it, I have a responsibility just to educate on the potential issues and how to try and avoid them. But also, the people that are going to do bad things with it are going to do bad things with it, no matter what I
Regardless.
say.
For sure.
So the more, I think the approach we should be taking has nothing to do with machine learning and more to do with, other than educating best practices, more to do with culturally being good everywhere.
Yeah. Oh shoot, I had one more thing that was exciting to ask. Oh yes, okay, that's the word, exciting. What about machine learning is so exciting to you? Because I saw you I saw that passion kind of spark, because like you said at the beginning of this podcast that we were both in the same computer science bachelor's program, and then Garett went into machine learning probably around like third year, fourth year. You started like getting into it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool, but I was like, whatever, I don't care. But what about machine learning is so exciting to you? Like, what about it makes you want to explore it?
It's just the fact that you can take a computer program
Yeah.
and it's you're giving it these like basic constructs. You're giving it like the brain, and it's learning from the things it's seeing. It's just super powerful. It's like being able to offload like parts of your brain onto something else is essentially what it's doing. Right? It's like you take a very specific problem you have, let's say, whatever, if I keep coming back to the classification of things, let's say it was your job to distinguish between cats and dogs. Right? Maybe you don't want to do that. It's very repetitive. It's
Yes.
something that can be done very easily by a person, but maybe the person doesn't want to do that job.
It's not
because they could
meaningful
be
work.
doing other things that are more interesting, right?
It's not meaningful.
Yeah, so being able to offload certain things like that are very difficult for conventional algorithms, it's super interesting.
Yeah.
And it's like it's the way it operates is not the same as the human brain, but the outcome is very similar.
Yeah. And that goes into like future realities where there is a lot more so basically talking about automation.
Yeah, it's automating. It's so my perspective on automation is like a lot of people say it's going to be bad, it's going to take away jobs and stuff, but every time something has gone away in the past, there's been something else that comes up to replace it.
Yeah.
Right? There's always like you know, the people that aren't using horses to drive their hoes for their fields are using tractors now.
Yeah.
And it gives them more time to do other things like expand their operation.
Yes. Exactly.
And, you know, yeah, there will always be a new job market. And here's the thing, it's like if we can automate certain things, then the hard and tedious things become easier, which lets you focus on more of the nuanced, like interesting things. Maybe at some point everyone will become an artist because food is taken care of, or
Yeah.
you
An
know,
artist
whatever.
is
An
anything.
artist is just whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah.
For other people.
Literally
So,
just creating your own creations. Like being artist is just the definition of artist is someone who is putting out creations regularly.
yeah.
And that's something I'm getting really, really passionate about because last year I went full time with my creative work.
Mm-hmm.
And I just am witnessing how much more fun life is and how amazing and magical existence is when I don't have to do anything for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And having automation and having these technologies that allow us to get to that kind of a world where dumb, tedious tasks are taken care of, it does create more space for people to honestly just do more of what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say the tasks are dumb,
I
they're just
know.
tedious. So like
No, I was just thinking, I said dumb because I was
'Cause you don't
thinking
wanna
of
do that.
I was thinking of, my brain was thinking of the dogs and cats thing. Like I
Sure.
wasn't talking about like actual people's jobs. I was
yeah.
just talking about the tasks that are simple. I guess that's what I meant. They're
yeah.
simpler.
And some of them are not even simple. It's just anything that's repetitive
Yeah.
that, you know, maybe you don't have to do, unless you like of course if you like doing it, then yeah, that's your art.
For
Then
sure.
you can do that.
Like
Right?
woodworking, right? Like you can make a table.
Yeah.
And
you
a
can have
machine
a machine
can make
make
a
a table in
table.
5 minutes, but
Yeah,
you could
but
do
it's
it
not-
yourself,
yeah.
and then you get enjoyment out of that. The point is being able to not having to do anything, but wanting to do stuff.
Yes.
Right? If you have to do it because you're stuck,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's something that a machine can take over. You don't have to do that anymore unless you want to. You can do something else.
Yeah.
If I don't want to clean my dishes, I put them in the dishwasher.
Yes,
Right.
that's automation.
Yeah.
True that. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't have very solid examples in their mind of the positive effects of technology.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I think there's also this,
Because
like,
there is a thing-
misconception. Sorry, really quick.
Yeah.
There's this misconception in the spiritual community as well that only natural is... Do you know what I... And by
Yeah.
saying only natural, it's like...
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
literally primitive.
Yeah.
But that is not, like, technology has helped us a lot.
Also, technology is natural.
Yeah,
Sorry to say,
yeah, I was gonna
you're
say
not,
that.
You're not. Your inventions are not distinct from the universe.
Because
You're
you
all part
are
of the
nature.
same-
You are, like, Mother Nature is you.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the oneness of everything.
You're part of the same progression.
It's so funny. It's like what your aunt was saying one time when we were talking about, I don't know, food and how people put, like, natural on foods that are very processed.
Yeah.
But that they're still not technically wrong, because
Yeah.
even the processed foods are
natural.
from natural sources.
Yeah, everything's natural. Everything exists because
I think people
of the
just
universe.
even me, like, I oftentimes do believe that what comes most naturally to us. Okay, so here's the thing. So I feel like I define it based on when I'm planning on doing something. No, I need to think about this sentence. I don't know how I want to explain it. I also am losing my train of thought because I keep thinking about the fact that whether the camera's still recording or not. I don't know what I was going to say.
Naturalness? Was it about naturalness?
Yeah, but now my brain isn't moving past anything. Like, it's just like, do you know what I mean?
Flatline.
Literally.
Yeah.
I think I was just saying, like, a lot of the time, because our society, I feel like, has progressed so far away from what comes naturally to us as humans, like, we put all these rules and structures and expectations on ourselves to act in certain ways. So, for example, when you think of work culture, 9-to-5 work culture, I personally don't believe that human beings are designed to be operating like machines in that way, because we are cyclical. Like, we don't have, it's not like from 9 to 5 we're at, like, peak optimal performance. Some days we wake up and we're, like, at peak performance, and some days we wake up and we feel like shit. But the culture that we have built around us forces us to be the same every day and be like a robot.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, like, when I think of natural being better, I'm thinking more of, like, okay, so things that, like, if there were no structures, if our minds hadn't had created all these rules and systems, how would we behave? Mm-hmm. That's, like, what comes naturally as a human being. What do I actually want to be doing? Mm-hmm. And I think when I think about it like that, and that's what informs my beliefs, then it would be, if you are also someone who thinks like that, it'll be easy to think that all technology is bad. Mm-hmm. Because it's like technology equals new systems, and what if the new systems deviate us more from our natural tendencies and our natural desires?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. If you think back to, like, you know, whatever we believe about the origins of human life, and maybe we started on the plains of Africa or whatever, back then we would have been moving around a lot, doing different things every day. Mm-hmm. And then kind of as we develop technology and systems, we kind of start putting ourselves in boxes and then staying in that box every day.
Yes.
But then what's interesting is with machine learning and automation, is kind of starting to bring us back to being able to do all the stuff that we want to do every day, because it gets rid of the things that we're forced to do.
Yes.
Right. So it kind of will bring us back in this circle to, like, now our quality of life is way better, but we also have all this time to kind of discover again. Yeah.
And that's what it boils down to. I feel like I really would love to see our society be a place where no one's forced to do anything that they don't want to do. Because I think we've come a long way from, for example, when we're watching Bridgerton on Netflix, which is, I don't even know what era specifically it is, but it's about, like, English society, and there's all these rules and regulations of how one must act and how one must speak and things like that, and there's all these rules that prevent people from expressing themselves authentically because they have to fit themselves into this box of how a woman should be, how a man should be. But as we move forward, and even now, it's like, even from that era to now, we have made monumental progress in discarding some of that bullshit.
System,
and some of those dumb, and we're like returning back to, it's like, okay, we don't have to do, like, a woman does not have to do, like, I don't know how to move forward with that thought. Sorry. I'm like,
we don't have to follow, like, it's complexity for the sake of complexity.
Yes.
It's like they were bored and they were like, okay, like, what are we gonna do now? Okay, let's act like this. Let's make it like interesting, right? Let's like make these rules and turn life into this game.
Yeah, it's literally a game.
Yeah. Because
I guess they had money, right? Like, what was that era after the Industrial Revolution, or I don't know what I'm talking.
I think in Bridgerton.
What is the Industrial Revolution?
I think they were like, they probably had. I don't know what era that is actually supposed to be.
Yeah, because it's also kind of not
it's
historically.
It's more recent, but they had horse and buggy, so they maybe.
Do you think they had trains?
They might have had trains.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, at least those people, because they had people that were working under them. The people who were the servants were basically like what the robots will become for us in a way. Probably, like, they will automate the tasks that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like, the people who lived in high society then, they could live like that and not do anything and just play this like elaborate game.
Yeah.
Because all of their basic survival needs were being taken care of by other human beings. But now, I think we're with artificial intelligence, it's like we're moving into a space where we can return. Well, first of all, more people will have access to that leisurely lifestyle.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
And
it won't be at the expense.
If you imagine like a hierarchy of people, where like one side is like the bottom and the other side is the top, it kind of just like shifts everyone into like the positive direction.
Yeah, in like a more leisure
It doesn't
life.
necessarily change the order of like power, but it moves everyone in the direction of more freedom.
Yes. And now it won't be at the expense of other people like it was in that society.
Yes.
It will be at the expense, and then it goes into like that whole debate of whether robots are gonna have rights, and we took this course in ethics, and like if it does get to what we were talking about before, like general intelligence, and these machines do begin thinking and acting of themselves based on what they have been picking up, do they then have rights that are similar to the rights that we expect to have as human beings? So, but that's, I feel like, quite far away.
I think it's very far away. I think it could happen in our lifetime, but I don't think it's happening in the next 5 years.
But I also think even if it does happen, I don't think that it's necessarily, because I feel like by then, hopefully, at least in the world that I envision myself to be living in, most people are going to not treat them like shit. I feel like
you're like okay, imagine you have a Roomba. Like, no one's like kicking their Roomba around right now. It's just doing its job, right?
That's
and it
true.
goes back.
Yeah.
Right? So you're probably not going to have that much.
And then if they do get to like the level of like Westworld, you know that show? I don't know if you watched it, but it was like probably watched like an episode because your sister was watching it. It was this society where humans and there's robots and machines that look exactly like humans and they act like humans. I feel like if we ever got to that level, I would have no problem if they had rights, because the same rights that I do, because like the way that I perceive them, they are just like humans.
It's helping you, and
yeah,
like maybe you're helping it by
like what's the other movie? The one where the one where that guy's in a relationship with the machine.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I don't think she had a body. I think she was just like a voice assistant.
Yeah.
It's like it's doing its job. It's acting as a human to you. So therefore, I feel like naturally you would want to respect it as well.
Yeah, like if the machine is personifying.
Yes.
Then you're probably just going to naturally treat it the same way you would treat another person.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So the people that are bad people are going to treat their machines bad, and the people that are good people aren't. So that's...
Again, back to our main, that nothing is inherently good or bad, and that's just like a fundamental truth of reality. Nothing is inherently good or bad. Good and bad are defined by us, by the observer, and classified as such as well. And then that goes into how everything's just form and everything is meaningless in reality, and the only meaning that comes up
we make all of our
what
meaning.
Because
the thing that's right in every era changes over time. Right?
And you don't necessarily look back at another era and you don't blame those people. Like when you watch Bridgerton, you're like, oh yeah, that society sucks, I don't want to live there. But at the same time, you're not really blaming those people for living like that, because that's kind of just what they were born into. And a lot of things that they're doing are wrong and immoral to us now, but it doesn't really mean that they're bad people inherently.
I don't think there's inherent amorality. My policy on life is...
That's a big debate.
I know.
That you're entering.
I know. But my policy on life is just like, if it sucks to you, it sucks to the other person.
Exactly.
So...
Yeah. That's true.
It's based on maybe you could try and define being immoral as like whatever makes your senses as a human makes you feel bad with the senses you have.
Yes. Yeah.
So like something that would feel bad to a human might feel good to like an alien on another planet or something, right?
Yeah.
It's like maybe like aliens on another planet like enjoy getting punched. Maybe that's like really fun to them, right?
Yeah.
Because like it's
so
like
it's
maybe it plays, maybe getting punched to the alien plays some role. It like helps in their digestion or something. So their like senses have adjusted to like get a positive response from being hit or something, right?
So therefore like punching them is not wrong because they
enjoy
hurt.
it. Yes. So it's
like
whatever
what they feel.
Yeah. Anything that someone feels. If it feels bad to that person, just stay away from it. And if you can't tend to that person, then just don't be next to that person. Distance yourself.
Yes. Anyway, cut out again. I don't know if you could tell, but I feel like this past one, I wasn't really speaking about anything. I was just talking about...
You stopped right when it cut off. You finished.
No, because I think it stops recording.
Oh.
And then the display stays on for a little bit, and then it turns off. So I don't know at what point it stopped. But I was basically just talking about how I'm uncomfortable right now because this is the first time that I've recorded a podcast like this, and the first time that I've recorded a conversation. And it's spooky doing things for the first time. And what we were saying before was that we've been trying to record this podcast for months. And every time we sit down to, like, we set it up and everything, it's just like something doesn't align and we're like, I don't actually want to do this.
I think the main problem was that we were trying to do it too late at night.
In the day? Yeah. Well, that's because I didn't want to bother you during the day.
But that doesn't matter.
No, I know, but that's why because I thought it would just be easier for you to do it after you'd finish your whatever other work you wanted to do. Because I thought, because right now I'm seeing it more as like, oh, this is something that is going to benefit both of our growth. But before, when I was like, oh, do you want to be a guest on my podcast? I was like, please do me a favor and be a guest on my podcast, you know? Yeah. But yeah, I would really... Yeah,
it's way better during the day because you have more energy.
Yeah, I would even prefer to probably do it early. I think just the first one is just the hardest. So however this went out is good, how it is. Yeah. But I think in the future I would like to record earlier, even then, because what time is it? Like it's getting dark.
It's like 4:30.
Oh yeah, 4:30. But I don't know. I also woke up not very energetic. I'm tired. Do you think that we talked about good things?
I think so.
Do you want to talk about anything else before we end?
What are you doing
Oh.
the next couple weeks?
I am...
Or what have you been doing, and then what are you going to be doing over the next couple weeks?
Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to... The main thing that I'm focusing on right now is content creation and getting back into the groove of sharing what I know, because I feel like I learned so much over the past couple of months, and because I was in the state of receiving information, it was hard for me to share it back because I still hadn't processed it enough to be able to explain what I was learning. But now I'm finally at a place where I feel comfortable speaking about what I've learned, and a lot of what I've learned is are things that I had never encountered really before, and that are not necessarily contained within mainstream pillars of thought. And so my main goal right now is to get these ideas and concepts that have changed my life so dramatically, that are not existing in mainstream pillars of thought, and bring it to more audience, like a larger audience, so that other people who resonate can find these concepts and apply it to their lives and benefit their own lives. And some of those concepts are just like literally, I used to think manifestation was so dumb and like law of attraction was bullshit. But like in the past couple of months, I've been experimenting with it, and to me, it does not feel bullshit anymore. And just expressing that to more people and being another example of someone that these like things that seem so magical and fantasy, like, to show that actually it works, and it works not just for white people who are like privileged, it works for people of any background. And one of the main, at least because right now I'm talking about manifestation because that's what I'm really focusing on right now, as I just started a business and I'm manifesting I'm trying to visualize a more wealthy life for myself. But one of the arguments against the existence of the law of attraction is that like they think about like there are people, it's like, oh yeah, so like we were just saying that like people in like a third world country can just visualize something and it'll just happen for them. That's not how the world works. But honestly, I believe yes, they can. If they knew how to use it and they visualized it and they used the techniques, it would greatly benefit their lives. And it's not like, so, and the other difference is that like for me, like from being in a place of privilege, it's easier for me to visualize more lavish and luxurious and like high-end life experiences because I'm closer to that. But for someone who's in a more difficult and less privileged state, their visualizations are going to be massive. It's going to be like very far away from them and very like, what's the word?
Well, it's relative. Like,
yes, it's relative.
Advancement, so
exactly.
Whatever they want to
exactly
focus on. The whole point of manifestation is setting intention.
Yes.
To actually make a change, because if you're doing something and it's not working, you need to change what you're doing because it's not going to get you where you want to be.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to do is trying to show people that there is another way than there is another way to achieve success in all the ways that you envision success to look, and it doesn't have to be the way that our population has been doing it in the mainstream. Like, it doesn't have to be about hustle culture. It doesn't have to be about like striving and pushing and just like hating your life and etc. So I think that's my main focus of right now, and I'm trying to get more comfortable making content and speaking, because I see myself doing public speaking live in the future. So I need to get comfortable doing it as often as I can, and expressing the thoughts that I have in my mind in a way that is understandable and can be received by anyone who's listening. So I'm doing that. So I'm trying to make video. Actually, I'm not trying. I've set this goal of filming a video every day, and I did it today too. This counts. And then another thing, I have the coaching business. So I'm also coaching people one-on-one, which is another interesting experience because that's completely different. That's still teaching, but that's more of a collaborative, because when I speak my videos or when I record something, I get to fully determine what I'm talking about. But then working with someone one-on-one, you have to get feedback from the other person. You have to listen to them and determine what their needs are and kind of tweak your message and tweak the way that you present it.
To make it work for them.
To make it work for them based on what their beliefs are and how they see the world. And then another thing that I'm working on is a course, but I haven't really fully started working on that yet. But it's just basically a group. It's going to be either a live group course where I meet with the people who are in the course every week and kind of delivered like a lecture type of thing, but a more casual, it's not an actual lecture, but it's like I'm presenting something and then there's time for sharing and talking. It's either going to be that or it's going to be a pre-recorded course where I pre-record modules and share a lot of the practices that I've learned over my life that have been helping me create a happier life is the best way I can say it. So that's what I'm doing. But I'm really proud of myself because already I feel so different with video making. I used to be so like outcome oriented, and now I'm really genuinely shifted into like, as long as one person hears me and was like, oh, that was a good idea that I learned from Arij, I'm gonna now that's like fed into their mind and that's like planted a seed. I'm like, okay, I did my job.
Yeah,
that was successful. Another thing is I've been progressively getting less freaked out about money, which is really freeing. That's the real liberation. That's probably why I'm focusing on manifestation stuff so much probably this year, because that's huge liberation when you don't feel like you have to do. That's another thing we were talking about before about feeling forced to do something.
Yes.
A lot of people feel forced to do something. No one's forcing you to work a 9-to-5 job, but you feel compelled to work a 9-to-5 job because you're so scared of not having money. And so if I could help people free themselves from that fear and that scarcity mindset, then that will have such huge positive implications on that specific individual that I've helped, their lives, and also the lives of everyone around them, because like the mindsets ripple out. I feel like I have a huge mission.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes people, like yes, they do have to work to make money because they're living paycheck to paycheck or whatever, but the point is that they set the intention that they don't, well, maybe some of them maybe do want to do that forever, but for the ones that don't, they have to set the intention that they're looking for opportunities to get out of that, and taking steps, no matter how small they are,
yes,
to move away or to move towards what they want to be.
And that's why the law of attraction mindset, I feel, helps, because the law of attraction mindset, one of the main things that you must believe is that it is possible for you to receive anything that you visualize. Like for me to make $1 million a year, I have to first imagine it possible. Like I have to be able to envision myself living a life that makes me $1 million a year. You know, like me last year, I would not be able to think that was possible. Because I'm like, no, that's so far out of reach. It's not logical. It doesn't seem very practical. I don't know how it's going to happen. But because I've employed all these like beliefs about how, like beliefs related to law of attraction stuff, it doesn't seem that far away. I'm like, oh, and now I'm actually seeing, because I set that intention myself, I'm like, oh, it doesn't seem that far away for me to be making $1 million a year. I believe that I'm worthy of that. I believe that it is possible for me because I can envision it. Now all of a sudden I'm seeing like people are popping up into my lives that are coaching and making $1 million a year. It's like, I feel like once, like you said, you set the intention and then your mind like knows what to look for. And then any opportunities that pop up that kind of match that path, because you've set the intention, you can recognize those opportunities. Whereas if you had not set the intention, then those opportunities might still have come and existed in front of you, but you wouldn't have been able to recognize them and act upon them in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think whether or not anyone believes in the actual like metaphysical theories of why law of attraction works, it's still a valid way to achieve really crazy, amazing things in your life.
Mm-hmm. Good?
Yeah.
So should we end it there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks
Thanks
you.
everyone. Thanks for listening to
Yes.
the Conscious Club podcast.
Oh yes, that's the name of this podcast.
I think we hit on the topic.
It doesn't matter,
consciousness.
because who gives a shit? We talk about whatever we want.
I know, but at least for this one, we talked about.
I think we're never not gonna be able to talk hit the
Probably.
because the net is so, it's just what, like literally the description I wrote is like, speaking about the experiences of being a human being on planet Earth. I'm like, anything that we talk
Anything
about
goes.
fits that.
Yeah. Today I did the dishes.
Yes. And then I was thinking, yeah.
I was conscious while I was doing it.
Well, you talked about dishes.
Yeah, I know.
It fit. Okay, yes, thank you. That is all for today. You are dismissed. Anything else? No? Okay. Love you. Bye.